welcome to another episode of my little show that I like to call Spill It. Spill It is a show where I get to speak to inspirational people and share inspirational stories to connect people together, inspire others, and help people learn something new. This is episode 60, Care After Care. And Lucas Chapman will be joining us at 7:10 p.m. So make sure that you stay tuned for that. Until then, you have got the lovely company of me. I'm going to be keeping you company until 7:10 p.m. when Lucas will be coming out and joining us and talking about so much, to be fair. So yeah, I really can't wait, actually. It's going to be a really good episode. Very educational as well. Matt Palmer is in the house. Hi, Matt. Hope you're okay. Morning. It's evening. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining, Matt. Okay, if you are watching this, make sure that you have liked, you have shared, and you have commented. There are 3 simple things I'm asking for. If you like this, it means that the algorithms then push it up further, which means that it becomes more watchable content according to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And if you comment, it means that we get to engage with those comments just like you've seen them with Matt. And also, if you share it, it means that people get to join the community of Spill It, who might not necessarily know what Spill It is or what we're about or any of that, you see. So that's why it's important to do all 3: like, share, and comment. If you haven't checked out our other episodes yet, then you can do. All you have to do is head over to the Spill It website at www.spillit.uk, where you will be able to see all of the episodes that I have done with all of my guests from day one, from the very, very first pilot episode up until now, up until today. You'll be able to see all of them. But also, you'll be able to see all of the guests for the month. You'll be able to see a preview of the upcoming guests and also connect with those guests as well. So if there's a guest that really takes your fancy and you think, oh, actually, I really want to get in touch with them and find out more about them or whatever, then there's also a little link and you can do the little button. You can click on the button and it'll connect to my guest. There you go. See? But all the previous episodes, they're all on there. And also, if you want to listen to me whilst you're on the move, then you can do by heading over to the Spill It website and you'll be able to see the main 3 links to the Spill It podcast, where you can listen to me as you go out on your morning run, or listen to me as you are working hard in the gym, or listen to me as you are driving your car to work, or shopping. I don't know what's up with me today. I'm in a bit of a hyperactive mood. But there you go. You can do all of that by heading over to the Spill It website, and make sure that you check it out. We keep those comments and questions rolling in as well. It's a very interactive show. You might have questions. I might have questions. We might have questions. Lucas might have questions. Whoever has questions, just put them into the comments box and we can discuss them live on air. Or if you've got any just comments in general, you don't have to have questions. You might just have comments. If you've got anything to say, you want to share your story or whatever, then drop a comment and let us know. And as I said, don't forget to hit the share button. It's super important. Just hit it. Just press it. Just press it once. You don't have to, but I want you to. You do it for me. Okay, moving on. It is announcement time. So this is the time where obviously I talk about anything and everything that's been going on with my life, with other things in life and all of that lot. And I'm not really. What's this? I'm not happy you're not repping anymore. Well, we'll have to wait and see, Matt, won't we? We'll have to wait and see. That's all I can say on that. Keep an eye out for a future post, Matt. Keep an eye out for a future post on my work Facebook, because something's coming. That's all I can say. Okay. So, announcements time is a section where I get to speak about anything and everything that's happening in the world or in my life or whatever. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was a dance exathon. So, for those who know me, I run a dance exercise class outside of all of this bubble, all of this world. And it's been going for the last 3 years as a dance exercise class. It was a dance class before that. And it's been going brilliantly. Anyway, so you might remember, for those who have kept up with the journey since the very, very start, I interviewed a lady called Kathy Thompson Evans, who runs the Kids for Kids group. It's actually where I volunteer as well on a Sunday. But we are raising money for Kids for Kids at the moment. And what I thought I'd do is I kind of mix the two worlds together. And what I ended up doing was creating what I called the Dance X-a-thon, which is basically just a dance-a-thon, but I wanted to put the whole Dance X name in there as well. So it was called the Dance X-a-thon. Well, we raised £555 at the Dance X-a-thon, which is absolutely epic. Here's a little photo of us over the hours. So we did it for 5 hours. So hour one, we had loads and loads of people. Hour two, there was a few less people. Hour three, there was a few more less people. Hour four, we built it back up again and we got a couple more extra people joining in. Hour five, we got a few more people joining back in, and then we completed that after hour five. So it was 5 hours of Dance X goodness. It was so good. And as I say, it was epic. It was tiring, but it was epic. And I just want to say a massive congratulations to absolutely every single one of the people who participated and also who donated as well. It was so good. And we are so grateful as well, like here at Kids for Kids, but obviously at me with Dance X as well. I'm so proud of absolutely everybody who joined in, who participated, who donated as well. It's beyond what I even expected. I put on on the Just Giving site, I put on like £500 because I thought, well, that was like the default. And I was like, well, I don't really know what to ask for. So I'll just leave it as £500. Never expected to get £500. But there you go, £555. And it's still climbing as well. We are still getting donations through. So as of today, it was £555. Maybe next week it'll be more. Who will know? Me, I will know because I'll get notified. There are so many things happening as well here at Spill It 8. Hang on, let me start that again. There are so many things happening here at Spill It HQ as well. Next month, we've got our LGBTQ plus month. So I've got loads and loads of guests lined up, which we're going to go through at the end of today's episode. So make sure that you stay tuned at the end after Lucas finishes his story, because then you'll be able to find out all of the guests, and there is one epic guest next month. I can't wait. Oh my god. Oh, it's so cool. But yeah, you'll have to stay tuned if you want to know who my special guest is for next month. But also in October, we've got our Halloween episode as well, our ghost hunting episode with Spill It Investigations. And also we will have our Midnight Society launching, where people will be reading out their horror stories live on air at midnight. Ooh, for Spill It After Dark for the Midnight Society. All coming up in the next few months. And then, of course, after October, we're then into the Christmassy season, aren't we? That's mad. We're going into the Christmassy season. So if you are a Christmassy person, just like we did last year, if you are a Christmassy person, make sure that you get in touch, because I will have you on my show. I will probably have some returning guests as well, because last year's episodes over Christmas were brilliant. But if you are wanting to come onto the show and talk about your Christmassy goodness or whatever, then let me know. You can come on the show at Christmas time. Right, I have talked your ear off for 10 minutes. It is that time. Lucas has been waiting very, very patiently and listening to me ramble for the last 10 minutes. It is time for him to come out. Are you ready? Are you ready? I'm ready. So here he is. It is the man of the hour. It is Mr. Lucas Chapman. Hello, Lucas Chapman.
Hi.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Good. Nice to hear, and nice to see you as well. We connected several months ago, and then I didn't get in touch with you for absolutely ages. And then I was like, let's get in touch with Lucas and find out what he's up to and see if we can get him on the show. And here you are today.
Yeah, very much.
Well, before we get into all of your story, because it's going to be, it's a very good story, isn't it, that you've got? And it is something that needs to be talked about as well, which is obviously care after care. Now, before we get into all of that, are you ready to play a little game?
No, because I don't know what it's about.
Well, the waiting is over, Lucas. You will soon find out what that game is all about. Here is the 5-second rule. That's right. It is the 5-second rule. This is a game that I play with all of my guests. This is just it's an icebreaker game. It's just a game where we can have a bit of a laugh, a little bit of a joke, put a smile on people's faces, and just make you feel a little bit at ease because we're live across the airwaves. So all you've got to do is as simple as this. I will ask you to name 3 somethings, and you've got 5 seconds to name those 3 somethings. It is as easy as that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's start off easy then for you. Name 3 words that start with the letter Z.
Zoo, zebra. Oh god.
Well, there you got 2 out of 3. I was trying to think of the third one. So you've got zoo, zebra, and I don't know. I don't know what a third one would have been. Guys who are watching, if you've got a third word that begins with the letter Z or Z, then please put it in the comments and let us know, because I'm struggling to think of one actually. Oh, you could have probably gone like zoologist or something like that. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Matt's comment is saying Zoom. Yeah, there you go. Well done, Matt. Matt scored the extra point. Okay, here is your second question. Name 3 things you do when no one is looking.
Dance, cry. I don't know. I keep getting 2.
That's another 2 for you. Dance and cry. Hopefully not at the same time.
Sometimes.
Love it. Okay, name 3 planets that start with the letter S.
Sun, Saturn. Oh, I should know this.
I'm going to score you 1. You can't say the sun. The sun is not a planet.
Yeah, it's a star. Oh, yeah. I didn't know that.
Oh god. Yeah, Matt has also commented sun is a star. As soon as you said that is the first one, I was like, this isn't going to go well. Okay, we'll put it out into the ether of the world. If you guys can think of 3 planets beginning with the letter S, then please put them in the comments and let us know. Okay, it was just a little bit of fun. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
Good. That's what I like to hear. Right, are you ready to get into this? Because I'm wanting to get into this. I'm looking forward to it. So, I want to know, who is Lucas Chapman?
Yep, so that's my name. I'm 20. I live in Lancaster currently with my dog, who you might hear behind me sometimes making loads of noise. Got 2 cats, and I'm a single dad to an almost 5-month-old little boy called Dylan.
Aww.
He's currently quiet. I work as a healthcare assistant when I'm not looking after him, in an A&E department, so that's busy. I play rugby for an inclusive rugby team who are in Preston called the Typhoons. They're amazing. I do dog agility with my dog down there. Yeah, I can't think of anything else. That's bad.
Busy bee, though. Busy bee.
Yeah.
Seems to have a lot going on.
Yeah.
Nice. But obviously, who was Lucas Chapman then?
So I didn't actually grow up in Lancaster for a start. I grew up all the way down south in Norfolk. I was born in Norfolk. Most of my family are actually from Lancaster. So my brother was born in Lancaster Hospital. It's not that I've like randomly thrown a dart in the UK and moved somewhere. But I grew up in Norfolk. I grew up in a bit of a chaotic life, to say the least. I know there's no such thing as normal, but it wasn't that normal. My lived with my mum, and I have an older brother who's 4 years older than me, called Callum. We're really close. My mum has quite complex physical health, mental health, and quite a lot of needs, which either meant I was caring for her, or I spent a lot of time living with family such as my grandma. Me and my grandma have a really close bond. She's still down in Norfolk. Family friends, or I spent some time in foster placements, quite a few. I was in and out of foster care quite a lot. So, like, I use my house as an example, and I'll be talking about my house later on. I've been in this house, I want to say 18 months now. That's the longest I've ever been in one address, and I'm 21 this year.
Wow.
So yeah, that was me growing up. I moved school a lot. I have quite a lot of health problems. So I'm autistic, partially deaf. I have a genetic condition that my mum's got called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and I've got a weakened immune system. So I was sort of battling all that. Moved school a lot, but still did quite a lot of good stuff. So I came out with 10 GCSEs at A star to B. Started to do advocacy work when I was about 16. So, but yeah, it was a bit chaotic growing up, to say the least.
You said that you had the same condition as your mum. What was it called again? Sorry.
It's a rare genetic condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
And what is that?
It's a genetic condition that affects how my body produces collagen. And anyone who knows stuff about the body, collagen's in pretty much everything. So it's why I'm losing my hearing. It's why my sight's bad. I dislocate easily. I break easily. My muscles are weaker, and it has some weird symptoms like local anesthetics do not affect me at all. Like they don't work. Which
So if you were to
is
go to the
interesting.
dentist, then you would feel like
So that's one of the diagnostic things. But we didn't know I had the condition till I was 11, and I had problems
wow.
with my teeth. But they always just thought I was being a diva. But I really wasn't. They're like,
I
oh,
love
he's
that.
just
The fact that
making
you're in so much pain, and they were just like, "Oh, he's just being a diva. Just ignore
Yeah.
him. It's fine."
It.
Sorry, I
It's
shouldn't laugh.
also like makes you look really young, and but also makes you go grey early. It's a really weird condition. But it's
Right.
degenerative, so it normally gets worse over time. But yeah, so I cope with that along with a weakened immune system. That's fun. Mixing two together.
Mhm. And how has that affected you? So obviously, with everything that you've got, like the different diagnosis that you've got, how has that affected your daily life? And obviously, because you're raising your son as well, aren't you?
Yeah. I'd say with raising Dylan, my autism is probably the hardest thing because don't like noise that much, and like however much I can just take my hearing aids out and pretend he's not crying, it doesn't work that way.
No.
No. But I'm falling into a new routine with him, which is working a lot better now. So that's probably the thing that affects me the most, actually looking after him. But I do sometimes get pain, or if I've been in hospital quite a bit recently, for example, and that's always difficult because I don't want to be away from him and I worry about him. But I've got to get my health sorted. There always seems to be something going on, which is really difficult. It's like I get over one thing. So I had quite a battle with my mental health when he was about, I want to say 2 or 3 months old. I got over that and I was like, I'm feeling amazing. I've never felt better. And then I've been in hospital with my physical health. So it's like, it can be quite difficult, like juggling everything. And
Yeah.
it's really sad, actually. It gets me down sometimes. It's like there's always something like what I actually lost a finger in this last hospital admission. And it's like, yeah. And it's, yeah, been quite a lot.
Wow. Okay.
I didn't like lose it as in like I know where it is. That's probably the wrong phrase. It got amputated. That's probably a better
Right. Okay. That that's like a lot that
Yeah.
yeah, that's a lot. I mean, I moan at like a really minor inconvenience in my life. Like, I don't know, I'll trip up or something, and I'm like, I'm going on about it for years on end. But you're going through like a lot, aren't you? But
Yeah,
you
but it's just I think it's just about trying to make. I've learned a lot more recently. Just try and make the best of it, and just like try and move on and make the best of it.
I was
It's
gonna say
all you
because
can do.
you come across very cheery and just quite I don't know. considering obviously you are going through quite a lot at the moment as well, especially like today you're going through a lot. You do seem very, very chipper, let's
Yeah,
say.
I mean, I do use humor and things as a coping strategy. I'm not
Mhm.
always good at actually showing my emotions. Well, I either like don't show them at all, and I'm like this, or I'm like being a diva, like really showing my emotions. I haven't really gotten in the middle, but
Mhm.
most of the time, yeah, I say things quite flippantly. So sometimes I'll just say things, and people will stare at me, and I forget how casually I say some things, and that's around my health, around my home circumstances, everything. And I've had people look at me, and I go, yeah, I completely forget how just casually things come out of my mouth sometimes.
I think we
Um,
do though. I think we
yeah,
we all do. Like when we are going through something or when we have been through something, because it's our story and it's something that's just happened to us, it becomes kind of like I don't know, like it's such a blah moment that you just like, well, yeah, whatever, and you just kind of say it as it is, and then you don't realize until people are actually looking at you like, oh, right, actually, yeah, okay, let me rewind and let me go through it a little bit more
yeah,
for you then. So yeah, I completely get that. Let's talk about you growing up then. So obviously you was talking about care, wasn't you?
yeah.
What was that like growing up?
Tough. That's normally the first word I say. It was difficult. And like, I'll head it off saying I have had some incredible foster carers. I've had some incredible social workers. I've had some incredible people from schools, hospitals, police stand up for me, like loads. But it was difficult. Yeah, moved around a lot. And it was always that thing of like, not quite knowing what's coming next, knowing whether I'd be moving, whether like one meeting could change what felt like the whole course of my future. So it was always sort of looking over my shoulder or what's next gonna knock me down. And like I did go through some pretty difficult experiences that I'm still processing a number of them. And it was always difficult experience. Now you've got to talk about it, or now we've got to go to a court, or now you've got to write it all in a report, or and it always just felt like I was having to go over stuff, and I felt a lot of the time I just couldn't be a kid. I don't that that's the basis of it. Like, tried my best, and as I said, I had good foster carers. When I was with my grandma, sometimes that was great, but yeah, so it wasn't easy. It was very unpredictable life. Like, I had its good moments, and I've obviously it wasn't all bad. But it that overshadows it is the stuff that had happened. And I felt like I started to be defined by what had happened. Like in every school, I was like the care kid or the one with the sick mum, or like I even got bullied for that in one of my schools. That I had a mum who had disabilities and was
Mhm.
unwell. So the things kids pick on, it's just
Yeah.
unbelievable. I was quite badly bullied actually. But in like my last school, who were great, there was only three of us who were in foster care. So out of 1,800 kids. So it was an unusual thing, and it was a thing people didn't understand. And there's always that thing of people are scared or don't when they don't understand things. That's when they can be mean about it. That's when they can. So as well as battling having an unusual home circumstance, I was battling people's lack of understanding and just that, which was just as difficult as what I was going through. um yeah.
Bullying, I mean, I've talked about it many times on this show. Bullying, that's where bullying comes from, essentially, or a vast majority of bullying comes from a place of unknowing. It comes from a place of they're not able to understand something different. They're not able to kind of process that. And so therefore they pick it out. It's kind of like pack mentality. So because we're all animals at the end of the day, that's what we are. And no matter how you look at it, we are all animals, and we have this pack mentality that when something or one of the pack, if you will, a member of the pack is different, we push them out. So that's where a lot of the bullying comes from. I'm just wondering how did you cope with the bullying? And obviously with the things that you were going through as well, but also with the bullying on top of that, and what support was there for you?
As I said, like I moved school quite a bit, so it really varied by school. So like I did actually go for a few years to a private school, um, mainly because I was a music scholar as well, and they liked. I started off boarding because social services and people thought instead of putting him in a foster placement, you know, that's stable, let's put him in a boarding school, forgetting that we had these like magical things called school holidays. But because I was a kid that wasn't very, very rich, wasn't, well, that basically they picked up on that. I mean, I was in year 7 when I went to this school, and they picked up on that really quickly. So I was bullied for that. But I think, I'm not saying because it was a private school, because I'm sure there's great ones. The teachers weren't used to bullying or people in my home circumstance. Like, their safeguarding was appalling. So they didn't really know how to do it. So like in year 7, when I was at home with my mum, I think I want to say like 55 hours of detention because I hadn't done my homework, despite me going, we've had the emergency services rang 4 times this week while I've been at home. And they're like, should have taken your homework with you. Like, remember that next time. And that was the teacher's attitude. So when I was going to them going, look, these kids are being really horrible. They've picked up that I'm not as rich as them. And it's not like I was poor by any stretch of the word, but some of them were like parents were like billionaires. They picked up that I had a disabled mum. I was overweight. I was part of the LGBT community. It was just everything. You know, I had problems with my vision and problems with my hearing. Like, there was a lot for kids to pick on. But I'd go to teachers and they'd just be like, what do you want us to do about it? The only time that they were going to do something was when a student locked me in a locker when I was in year 8. So they were going to, I don't know what they were going to do. I think they were going to temporarily exclude him. But his dad just gave loads of money to the school. And then they didn't do anything.
That's ridiculous.
So wasn't dealt with very well then. I went to a different high school in year 10, just like my local comprehensive. It was quite big, not very well rated by Ofsted. It was the best school I'd ever gone to, and they had a really good safeguarding department. They had actual teachers that were looked after children, or which is another word for children in care teachers. Who had really good disability and all of that. And I started to be bullied. They picked up on that really quickly. They spoke to them and said, in a really kind of like, not just telling them off, but going, why are you picking on somebody who's got this? And they really listened. But also, I did some assemblies during Young Carers Awareness Week about some of the stuff I did for my mum. So I was like, look, I've rang an ambulance when I was 3, that for the first time. I other emergency services when I was like 7. I've put dislocated joints back in. I've done CPR. I've dealt with overdoses. I've dealt with all of that. And they listened to all of that. And after that, I didn't get bullied as much because I think they just understood the situation.
Yeah.
Not even, you always know when something's happening behind your back. And I could tell they weren't even doing anything behind my back. So year 10 and 11 were actually slightly easier years. But it was worlds away how different schools dealt with it.
Yeah, I get that. My school was rubbish at dealing with the bullying. Yeah. I mean, I've talked about my story before, so I'm not going to go into details or anything. But I mean, the school that I went to, so I was being bullied, and the teacher took me out of class because I was disrupting the class because I was being bullied, which was just mad. Like, and I look back on it and I'm like, what? That is
what happened there? Yeah.
And like, obviously at the time I was like, yeah, okay, that's fine. And then I'll leave the classroom and whatever, and then go into like this separate room with like, it was like a little tiny box room. I remember it like clear as day. It was like a little tiny box room, and I had to do all of my work, and I wasn't allowed in the classrooms because of the disruption, because there was that much bullying happening that they didn't want me in the classroom because it was easier to deal with like them if I wasn't in the room. So every day I'd have to go to like different classrooms and collect pieces of work and sit down and do them on my own. So I never had that one-to-one time with teachers or anything. So it's crazy. And you're right, like obviously like different schools handle things differently. And I'm very, very glad that you found a school in the end that actually managed it brilliantly for you. So obviously growing up, you was in and out of care. You had the support network from like later on in schools. You would have had the support network outside of school, I'm assuming.
So I had some family that were good. I had social services, which were hit and miss. I had a lot of social worker changes. I still do now because I still have a social worker now. I think he's like my 20th. I want to say 20th.
Wow.
So, and then it really depended where I was. So sometimes I had the school. Sometimes I had other services, like if I or my mum was in and out of hospital a lot, or the emergency services if they were being called quite frequently. But I didn't really have a solid outside support network growing up, apart from, and some family friends, actually. That's a lie. There was a few family and friends who were around for quite a few years who I'm still really indebted to. Like, they did so much for me growing up. But it changed a lot because it depended where I was living, what school I was going to, what was happening. So that did change quite a bit, actually.
I was going to say, because you also mentioned the fact that you never stuck in one place for long. You were constantly moving around. So was you just moving around the area, or was it moving out in and out of the area?
So I moved around Norfolk. Norfolk's quite a big
Right.
county, though. So I think to go from one end to the other is a couple of hours drive. I did go to Suffolk, I think, twice. Sometimes in and out, like I was going back to places. Like I went. Sometimes I'd go, like I went from my grandma's to my mum's, to my grandma's to my mum's, to a family friend, and like sort of like that. So some of the placements were the same. So yeah, I moved around the county mainly. Mainly in the middle of the county, which is better, but yeah, a bit here, there, and everywhere. And I think once or twice I was moved to Suffolk, which is next to Norfolk.
So any of like relationships, not like relationship, but like any relationships that you were building with people, like friends and whatever, you would have lost touch with those people then as you were moving around.
Yeah, and that taught me quite a weird thing with, I wouldn't say weird thing with friends. Like, it sort of taught me that you're only ever friends with people if you see them a lot, or,
Right.
or you talk to them. But the second you don't see anyone for a long time, then you can't keep a friendship, because that's what happened. Is I didn't really keep friendships. Like, I haven't really kept any of my friendships from school. I don't think I've spoken to any of them. So I'm only just starting to change that perception now. So yeah, that I never really built them up, which is disappointing, really.
Yeah, definitely. With regards to care, so obviously we were talking about prior to this episode, one of the things that we talked about was care, but aftercare, and what support there is for people like yourself, or younger people who are going in and out of care and growing up, and what kind of support did you get, or what support is there available after you've left home, left school, got to a certain point in your age where obviously you don't have that support network, if you will, of school and all of that lot?
So I know it really varies by county. That's some of the things I do know from speaking and working with the people I do. But my personal experience, and I know it's similar to a lot of people, mine is a little bit weirder. That when I was, so 16 and 17 is a bit of a weird grey area age. Like, you're still legally a child, but they don't they don't really try as much. But I think I was at home. I was in foster placement at 16, then went home for a little bit, and then ended up in hospital because I struggled a lot with my mental health. Obviously, I started at about 12, came to notice for services about 14. And I ended up getting a section to a mental health unit when I was 17. Well, that happened for the first time when I was 14, but when I was 17, in March, I think it was February. And that actually took me past my 18th birthday. So I turned 18 in a psychiatric unit, which, yeah, not great. They tried their best, though, the staff were really good, which was interesting because normally when you're 18, what they normally try and do when you're sort of, well, when I was in kid, was sort of when you're 17 is come up with, they call it a permanence plan, to sort of see what your future is, to either help you get a house, or if you've got good foster carers and you're with them, you can actually stay with them if the foster carers say that's okay.
All right.
The newer thing that is only actually coming in the last few years, it used to be the second you hit 18, bye, no matter if you were still halfway through your A levels or didn't have a place to live, it would just be like, off you go. But because I was in hospital, that didn't really happen. They passed me over to the leave and care team. I was moved to an adult hospital the day after I turned 18. So went back to Norfolk because I was in hospital in Essex. Went back to Norfolk, spent 9-10 weeks in an adult hospital, and then they were like, he's ready to be discharged. I'd done a lot of work over those few months, a lot of work. And Norfolk just came back and just went, well, he's past 18, so what do you want us to do about it? They were like, the only thing you could do is get discharged and just be homeless and just hope we do something. Yeah, and I was 18, and I was 18 in like a September. So in terms of an academic year, I was quite a young 18. So I made the decision to move to Lancaster. So I was discharged, and my grandparents turned up at the hospital with a suitcase and my dog. And I got on a train and came all the way up to Lancaster and had my first legal drink on a Virgin train.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
Well, everything for a reason. You had your first legal drink on a train.
exactly.
But that is disgusting.
Yeah.
The way that I genuinely can't believe as well that the advice that somebody gave to you was just become homeless and then we'll be able to help you out.
From a few people as well. It wasn't even just like one person's not very good advice. A few people said, look, what do you want us to do? Because you're an adult now. Yeah, but it's like, yeah, but I'm an adult with not a huge amount of support or any money. So yeah, and then I just moved up to Lancaster.
And there's people as well out there that, obviously you've got a range of different conditions.
Yeah.
And obviously you're going to need support with those conditions.
Yeah.
Now, there'll also be people who don't necessarily have the same conditions as yours, or maybe just one or two or whatever, but they are still going through this same thing. They're still going through the fact that they are unable to get support. Predominantly is when they are either 16, 17, turning 18 years old, or 18 and beyond. They're not able to get that support. And you said right at the beginning, obviously, you're doing a lot of advocacy work, aren't you, at the moment?
Yeah.
I'm just wanting to know if you can talk about that then, because obviously it all links together, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I work for two. I'm lucky to work with two charities now. So I'm Lancashire's ambassador for Young Minds, which is an amazing role. That is around mental health. I do stuff around care, but not as much. I did do a small project about early intervention into young people's mental health who are in care. So like if a child has gone into foster care, whether that's for a night, a month, a year, whatever, they should have an automatic and quick referral to a mental health service. So I did do a small project on that. But the other charity I work for is I am a National Voice ambassador for Coram Voice, which Coram Voice is a charity who run advocacy services, but like official advocates. So like the ones that will go into like meetings, because trust me, meetings when you're a looked after child are heavy. But they also have a board of young people aged I think we're 14 to 25. So some are in care, most have left care. And we help. The main thing we do is launch a campaign, which we've just done, but we also work on littler things like advising looked after children's boards, advising schools, advising policy teams and things like that. So I work with those two and do little bits of work through them, really.
Brilliant. So tell me about the campaign then. What is this campaign that you've just launched?
So the one that we've launched this year is called Home is Not a Placement, which is based around placements. Is that is the language that is used in foster care, which is this is your placement and not your home. Like it's basically like you come into foster care and you can't have a home. And it's about it's the campaign differentiates slightly depending on what age you're talking about. So with little kids, it's making sure that they're allowed little things that can make a foster placement in their home, like teddy bears, duvet covers, little things like that. But for the old ones in leaving care, it's about making sure that when we've left care, that we have somewhere safe, that we don't end up on the streets, that we don't end up in all of that, and that local authorities and councils and all of that are aware of people leaving care and being able to get them homes, or at least I'm trying to think what they're called because I was in one. So like when I moved up into Lancaster, I did become homeless a few months after. I went into a youth homeless hostel for a bit. It was hell on earth. And then I moved to it was really hell on earth. And then I moved into like a placement, but it wasn't called a placement, and it's completely escaped my mind what it was called. But it was for leaving care, and it was for 16 to 25-year-olds. There was 7 of us, and it was all about teaching us independence, teaching us the skills
Oh,
we need,
wow.
and then making sure that we safely go on to something. So they helped me get the house I'm living in, and then made sure that I had white goods and sofas and carpets and stuff like that. So, but like, that's Lancashire. There's one project like that in Lancaster, and I think there's one at the bottom of Lancashire, which is a similar size, so about 14 of those spaces across the whole county. But that's what this campaign's about, is to make sure there's more of that, to make sure there's more advice around it and things like that. And it's about, like, we're calling on the government and councils to think about the language they use, what and giving us that sort of home. But we're also asking people who aren't involved in foster care, like just everyday people, to people who might be watching the show, my friends, anything like that, to just write what home means to you. Not in terms of, we've made sure to try and make sure that people don't use words like family, because obviously that's a bit of a touchy subject. But things like, people have written like pictures, books, nice food, things like that. So sort of like that, about that really.
Leela's asked, is it supported housing?
Yes, that's it. Thank you. That completely escaped my mind, and I don't know why, but it's specifically supported housing for people who have left care, because it is a very different scenario to people, because I know there's supported housing for people with disabilities, but obviously leaving care when you've not got support and all of that. And, you know, most people who have gone through care have had a really traumatic upbringing, really traumatic, and to then move on your own when you're 18 or 16 is tough. So it's like specifically around that.
What advice would you give to someone who is maybe going through something like this that you had previously gone through at 16, 17, 18 years old, worried about the lack of support that might be out there, or maybe that they're just unaware of the support that's out there? What advice would you give to that individual?
It's to go to charities like Coram Voice, where they have the advocacy services, and they've got those people that are trained to actually sit and have a conversation with you and go, these are your rights because you're leaving care. These are your rights because of your age. This is what they should be doing. This is what they can do. Because like the advocates at Coram Voice are really clued up on that sort of stuff. Because the fact is, with social workers with 40, 50 caseloads on their books, don't have the time to sit down with you and go, this is what happens when you get older. But there are organizations out there and people who do have that information, and that it does appear really scary, because looks after children leaving care make up, I think it's between 0.5% and 1% of the population, which isn't a lot, but there is other people out there who have gone through similar. It's not a lonely position. And then we're not just the statistics people throw at us that will end up in prison and homeless and addicts, like the things that get thrown at us, which can happen, but that because I was a looked after child, people were like, that will be you will end up going to prison, like, I've been told all of that, and that's not true, and you can have a really promising future.
Definitely. So your advice obviously is just to get in touch with these charities that are out there, like obviously the one that you are an advocate for at the moment, because they do know what they're talking about and they can help you out as well. What can we do as a populace, as citizens of Lancashire area or whatever? How can we help support people?
I think it goes back, some of it goes back to what I just said about the statistics, is not listening to that. If you come across somebody who, like, in friendship circles, you sometimes ask about how you grew up or something like that. If you then have somebody turn around and go, oh, well, I grew up in foster care, actually, it's not to then turn around and instantly become like terrified of them or think, oh God, because that does happen. And not to listen to the statistics and not listen to all of that, but do think that sometimes they might need a bit of extra support. Is sometimes to look at charities like not just Coram Voice, but people like Bernardo's and things like that, who have information, and just clue yourself up on what it could be like. But also knowing that if you ever come across a looked after child, because there's many jobs that don't think they will, that there are some extra things you need to consider. And when we do have these campaigns like this, is to try and take part in them, to try and share the content that we've created and all of that, because the more people it reaches, the better, really. Because I think we have things that you can share it with your local MP, and, you know, the more that happens, the better. But it really is just to be supportive, but also be thinking about that it might be a bit hard for that person to make friends. It might be a bit hard for that person in social situations, because I know it is for me, and that's not just due to my autism. I know it's not. Yeah, I think that's it.
With regard, I mean, you've said it a couple of times, obviously, to ignore the statistics, and
Yeah.
I know that, like, you'll look at stats and you think 1%, for example, is not a lot. And
No.
realistically, when we, because we all went to school, we all know that 1% is not a lot out of 100. However, when you think about it as a populace, so if you think about it, you've got nearly 700 million people who live in the UK. 1% of that is nearly 700,000 people.
Yeah.
So that's nearly 700,000 people in the UK right now are in that position.
Yeah.
So don't look at it as, and you're right, obviously, don't look at the statistics as in the 1%, but let's look at that and convert that into a number. And that's 700,000 people in the UK right now are in need of support.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, like, it is a small amount, but there is still, like,
it's
I've
still
always said,
700,000
yeah,
people.
it's still a
To me,
lot.
that's not a small amount of people. That's a huge amount of people. And it's because obviously when we look at like 1% of the UK population, we don't realize how many people actually live in the UK.
Yeah.
And actually that 1% is actually a huge amount of people. 700,000 people. That's a lot of people in my eyes. And these are people who are needing support. And you're right, there's always stuff that we can do, whether that be volunteering or educating ourselves or whatever. There is always something that we can do, and you're completely right that we can do more, obviously, as citizens or from the outside looking in. And also there are ways and means that people who are in these situations can educate themselves on the wider picture and not just rely on their local council. There are many charities out there, so it is always beneficial to educate. And we do need to educate about that. It's a fact. We really need to educate about things like this because it needs to be talked about. You're right. Well, how have you found today's episode?
Yeah, no, good.
Thank you for being like really open and honest and vulnerable as well. And I have many guests on that talk about a range of different subjects, and over the last couple of weeks we've been we've been delving deep into like some really core subjects, and it's something that we really needed to talk about and bring up. So I was 100% needed this on the show, and 100% needed to talk about this. So thank you for coming on the show and being really open and being really, really vulnerable as well, and just being completely honest with us. And it does take a lot to talk about things that you've gone through. What's next for Lucas? What does the future look like?
I should be going back to work at some point. I was meant to have already gone back to work, but then I ended up in hospital. That's carrying in terms of the work I do. We're carrying on with the campaign. We're seeing how that goes. Coming out of COVID, we're seeing if we can obviously do things face to face, because all our campaign work, all our advocacy work for both the charities I work for has all been online. I think I'm going to Houses of Parliament in a couple of months.
Oh, wow.
To talk about a youth mental health thing. Yeah, and then hoping my son sleeps more.
So a busy future for you, Lucas, and hopefully a quiet future for little Dylan.
Yeah.
Where can people get in touch with you if they wanted to find out more information, or where can people go and get educated and find more information about the subjects that we've talked about today?
So my main one that I use for sort of work, I say work, like my charity and advocacy stuff, is Twitter, which I think is just under my name. I should know that, but I'm pretty sure it's just under Lucas Chapman, as is my Facebook. I often do post things on there as well. In terms of finding other people that I've talked about, as I said, there's the charity that I work for, which is specifically targeted at children and young people in out and leaving care, is Coram Voice. Coram's quite a big charity that works in quite a few things. I think they work with adoption, families, some history thing, but particularly Coram Voice is the one that works with children and young people in care. They're the main one, and they're the ones that we're running our campaign for. We've just launched our Instagram, which is under Coram Voice, and we really want to try and get some more followers on that. So that's the main one. But also, yeah, as I said, there is other charities that can help be educated around kids in foster care and coming out of care, like Bernardo's and ones like that too. But Coram Voice is the main one for me, obviously.
What we'll do as well is we'll post the links to all of those, especially the Instagram one, if you're wanting us to try and get some people following on there. I'll post them all into the show notes. Guys, if you are listening to this on podcast, please make sure that you check the description of the podcast, and you'll be able to see an introduction to Lucas, and also you'll be able to find links to Coram Voice and, of course, Lucas Chapman as well, and his Twitter. Thank you. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you would like the opportunity to discuss now?
Not that I think I've touched on most of the things. I think obviously the campaign, a brief overview, as it were, things to think about, the statistics. I think I briefly talked about that, so I can't really think of much more. I think it's just it's just that really. I can't think of anything else.
That's fine. But have you got some final thoughts for us today?
Ooh, let me have a think. Thank you for listening to me for like 40 minutes for a start. It's just that is if you come across a young person who has left care, particularly if they're around my age and they are just coming out of the system, or what in American, and I think the term's coming over here a bit, is called aging out of the system. So is that they might need a bit of extra support, and they might just need that little person to listen to, and that, you know, not the assumption that none of us speak to our families. Like, I've got a really close relationship with my mum at the moment, but also that some of us don't. So I still have a tough relationship with my family, and that's why I found that my friends are so important to me. And I'm so thankful to have had such amazing friends, mainly through the rugby team I mentioned earlier, who have supported me so much through some pretty difficult things. Because when I first moved to Lancaster, my mum was still pretty unwell, and I dealt with some tough things. And I think as if you've got a friend or friend of a friend or whatever who's going through something similar, as if possible not to be scared off by it. And just because it can be scary to support someone through something like what I went through. But that support means everything. I think that's my main ones.
Thank you so much for sharing that. There's a really good message. Thank you. Now, at the end of every episode, I give my guests the opportunity to give a quote, and it can be something that they stand by, live by. It could be something that they've heard, they just really like, or it could be something that they've made up and they just think, you know what, that's how I'm going to live my life now. And I'm just wondering if you've got a quote for us today and why that quote is important.
Yes, I do. It comes from a really weird place. It comes from one of my favorite TV shows, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which is an American TV show.
Yes,
I love this show. It's the one I normally put on at night just to play in the background. But I heard it on an episode once, and the moment I heard it, I was like, "Wow, that really speaks to me." And the reason it speaks to me is basically the reasons I just mentioned. Is that, you know, we all go through difficult patches in our life. That's life. But with the people you have, I've got to see if I can remember it all now because it's quite a long quote. Life is unpredictable. Not everything is in our control. But as long as we are with the right people, we can handle anything.
I love that. That's such an epic quote as well.
Yeah.
One more time as well. Why is that quote important, and why should people be listening to that quote today?
Yeah, it's definitely because everybody can go through difficult times, but surrounding yourself with the right people. And I think the reason that quote spoke to me is, again, the reasons I just said, is that's not necessarily always your family. It can be your family, but it can be the family that you found and the family that you have accumulated over time, and the ones that have stuck by you possibly more than the family that you were born into. And that having those sort of people around you can just mean the world. And you can go through something that seems like the end of the world, because I did. I've gone through many things where I'm like, this is it. This is it. But I've had friends that have stuck by me, and that's meant everything. And I've managed to handle things that I never thought I could. And yeah, that pretty much. Yeah.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Deborah Cade is joy saying great quote, and she celebrates a little bit, obviously, because it's from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So yeah, thank you so much, Lucas, for coming on the show and being so open and honest with us as well. It's been amazing having you on. Leela's dropped a comment as well. Good luck with all your work and sleep. Hopefully you'll get some sleep, Lucas, because you deserve it, definitely. You are now free to say goodbyes.
I am going to say goodbye. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I have really enjoyed it, actually. Yeah, it's been really good.
Thank you. Well, we'll look forward to seeing more of your journey in the future. I'll be sure to keep in touch.
Yeah, I will do. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Wow, what a great guy Lucas was, and what a great episode this was as well. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me. It's been a really good, it's been an emotional roller coaster over these past couple of weeks. Last week we were talking about autism, and this week we talked about care. It was a good episode, very good episode. I'm gonna start crying soon. I'm just emotional. It's been 2 very deep episodes, but they have been definitely episodes that we have needed to talk about. That, my friends, was August. Oh my God, we're through August already. August is now at the end. We are now going into September. And what does September give us? September gives us a whole bunch of new guests on the Spill It show. The Spill It weekly show. The Spill It weekly chat show. Ooh. So, as I said a couple of weeks ago, Spill It is launching their very own LGBTQIA+ month, and that starts next week into September. Oh, I can't wait to show all of my guests what a great lineup we have. We are kicking off September with Gideon Allen, who's going to be joining us talking about relationships and dating, and that is going to be coming on next week. So make sure that you stay tuned for that episode. It's going to be a good one, and I can't wait to get into it all. Following Gideon, we also have Danielle Hopkins, who will be joining us on Wednesday, the 5th of September at 7 p.m. She's going to be talking about all things trans, so make sure that you come and join us for that one. Following Danielle, we will be speaking to the fabulously amazing Beth Meadows, who will be talking about LGBT in Lancashire. So if you are in the Lancashire area, make sure that you keep watching for that one, because we'll be talking about what it's like being LGBT in Lancashire and also what support is out there. Then, here we go. I took all the photos off because this is a big one for you. Okay. Then we will be speaking to none other. She doesn't even go here. We will be speaking to Daniel Franzese as he comes on. Oh my God, he's coming on the show to talk about HIV, and also we're going to be talking about Mean Girls, of course. But yeah, he's going to be talking about HIV because he has become a huge advocate in the LGBTQ plus community for obviously fighting HIV and reducing the stigma around HIV. He will be coming on the show to talk about that. She doesn't even go here. I can't believe it. If you don't know who Daniel Franzese is, he starred as Damien in the hit movie alongside Lindsay Lohan. He was Damien in the film Mean Girls. Oh my God, I'm such a fan. If you can't tell, I am so excited to have him on the show. But he will be on the show talking about HIV. And then closing September and closing the LGBTQ plus month will be none other than Debs Bradshaw Blythe, as she will be coming on the show on the 29th of September to talk about Pride. She's the organizer of Preston Pride as well, which is unfortunately been cancelled this year. However, she'll be coming on the show to talk about Pride, why it's important, why more cities need to be getting involved with Pride, and more. And that is your September lineup. The episodes will be live every single week, every single Wednesday with me and obviously them. But they will also be available online on the website. So make sure that you go onto the website at www.spillit.uk and you'll be able to also connect with all of the guests in September over on the website. So make sure that you check that out as well. And breathe. Sorry, I can't believe I'm still getting over the fact that Daniel Franzese is coming on the show. Yes. My name is Marcus Wright. And when I don't do this, I run a radio show called A Little Bit of Marcus over on the radio station Beat 103 across central Lancashire and South Ribble. You can catch me and all of the work that I do on there by following my Instagram at Marcus Beat 103. To check out everything to do with Spill It and more, head over to the Spill It website, www.spillit.uk. And you can also get in touch with me if you want to come on the show, or you just have some general questions for me. You can email me, marcus@spillit.uk. To support me, you can head over to the website and you can buy merch. Like we've got these brand new hoodies, a little bit of merch. They are available. You can also join the official Spill It Patreon, where you can donate as little as £2 per month, and you can support the work that I do. You can invite people into the Spill It community by inviting them onto the Facebook page or sharing the podcast out. And also, you can leave me a review over on Facebook and Apple Podcasts as well. If you are liking what I do and the work that I do, leave me a review. I would absolutely appreciate it. Thank you so much. And that is it from me. Thank you so much, guys, for being just amazing. You're always amazing every single week. I always tell you, thank you for being amazing. And until we spill it again, it's bye for now. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Spill It. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the perfect time to do so. Spill It goes live every week on Wednesday at 7 p.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And a special thank you to these amazing teacups.